Okay, let's get started. Can you hear me? Welcome, Christina. Let me know if you can hear me here. Welcome, Melissa. How's everybody doing? Good. Yeah, I got started just a tad little late here. I'm sorry. I was doing some running around trying to get the dog out before starting. Thank you for being patient. Good. Oh, okay. This probably is going to be a shorter lecture, just kind of give you an FYI. So depending upon, what you guys, if you have anything to share, you can share at the end here. Just a couple of things to review because you guys are taking a quiz for assessment 3. Yeah, chasing him around for sure. It's like having another kid. Yeah, we had some strong storms that came in through last night. Thank goodness I unplugged my computer. We had some power issues and it's just like nonstop. It's been raining for the past 3 days. I don't know about you guys, but I'm ready for it just to be dry for at least a day. That would be nice. But at least my computer didn't get damaged. I thought, oh, I'm so glad I pulled the plug on that because our lights went out 3 times last night. It's crazy. It's crazy, crazy, crazy. It's the time of the year. Yeah, but it's almost June. I feel like it should have been like a little bit better now. I feel like we're getting April weather or something. I don't know. I think the humidity is messing with us. How are you guys doing with your projects? Oh, it's 93. Yeah, I think we're going to be, it's not 93 here, but we're it's definitely humid and in the 80s. So for our assignment, I was trying to find a stand-up kiosk. I'm not sure I spelled that right. Oh, okay, like a PSD mock-up. Don't forget, you also have free mock-ups through your Adobe Creative Cloud. Let's check this out. I'm going to share my desktop so you guys can see what I'm doing. So if you go up to your Adobe Creative Cloud, and I believe it's under Files, or no, I'm sorry, Stock. You can look up PSD mockups. Excuse me. Is that where you looked? Oh, okay. Kiosk. Yep, kiosk is spelled right. Yep. Let's see if it keyword kiosk comes up here. Okay, here's one here. Looks like it's pretty. Just 2 results here. Let's see what this one looks like. I'll be turning in week 2, 1 for the mock. Wait, I will be turning in 2, 1 for the mock-up that we have for next week, and the other. I can't just turn in 1 assignment, right? That's fine. Hey, whatever. If you want to go above and beyond, I am right with you there. So, as far as this goes, like this week, you don't really have to turn in anything design-wise. You just have to show your strategy. This looks like, let's see, view preview here. Looks like that's just what is free possibly through the PSD mockups for a kiosk. Looks like the other ones are just signage here. And you would just kind of add this, download this to your library, or save it to your, looks like, let's see here, save to my library. Please contact your enterprise. I might have to sign in here. I am signed in. Huh. Usually you're able to download this. Looks like I have 1 credit. Maybe that's why it's opened up in Photoshop. See if that'll open up. Adobe Stock. Okay. It's like I have to add something here. Maybe I have an update going on I need to do. Okay, you're sending the one you found. All right. There are other mock-up sites, PSD mockups, free, that you can also look. Mockup World. Some of them aren't free though, so you really have to kind of make sure you're looking to see if they are truly free. Sometimes you have to do a little digging here. That's fine, Christina. You can send the one that, or you can even show it today if you want. Kiosk. So that one's not finding anything for that. That is the way you spell that. So some of them may or may not. This one also is a good one, the free pick. Okay, so you just, here's ones too. I don't know if these are free, but let's take a look. Here's this one. Okay, you sent that one. Good. Here's one. Let's see if we download. Free download. Maybe what I'll do is I could probably download a few and just give you guys a link to a Dropbox so you guys have access to it. Let's see what we can do here. Oh, okay, cool. Let's see what you got here. PSD display. You didn't pay for this one, did you, Christina? Okay. Okay. I'm gonna have to stand by here for a second. I hear my puppy's getting into something. I'm gonna put him in the crate. Hold on one second, you guys. Okay, looks like this guy is giving me some good exercise here. Came with 3 of them. Oh, okay, cool. All right, I'm opening them up right now so we can take a look. I thought I had Photoshop open. I'm sorry, guys. Whew. I didn't expect to get into the mock-ups, but we're all good. Okay, this is the one that I actually downloaded. So this is the one that I just did. So what you would do is you would just place the graphic in there. It's okay. Let's open file here. Oh, is this the one? That was kind of cool. Yeah, I like that one. And then you would just put the, let's see here. Yep, you would put your mock-up in there, save it out. Yep. So I guess that, you know, I figure mine is a long style. There you go. So it's good to do, like I said in the last lecture yesterday when we met up, it's good to kind of figure out what mock-up that you're going to use, because look how different these screens are size-wise. No, you're not going to add that until next week, but it's good to kind of get that ahead of time so that you know what the ratio of your screen size will be. Yeah. So what you would do, Christina, you would open this up, go to image size or canvas size, and you would look at the ratio here. So it's about 5.5 by 8. Oh, okay, no, that's okay. Yeah, no problem. I kind of said ahead of time that I'm showing you guys this, but you don't have to do this till next week. So sometimes I'm kind of thinking that some people may get confused too and think, oh, I need to get this done for this week, but you don't have to. It's just kind of thinking ahead. So 5.5 by 8, almost about 8 well, it's definitely 8.25 would be your ratio. If you were doing something like this, your ratio would be different. And when I say ratio, you can do it a smaller size, just make sure it's the same shape. So the canvas size would be about 8.5 by 6.5 here. So when you're, designing in InDesign and Illustrator, your screens, you would want to keep it to that same ratio or the same size. Because if you, obviously if you designed it for this and then you wanted to put it in the long style, it's not going to work. If you were to place it on this one, where is it at? This one, it would be very weird looking. So no, it's okay, Christina. It's a good thing to look ahead. Would you be opposed to me saving this and putting it in the options for other students? Kind of collect a little file folder. Okay. And that way, everybody kind of has an option for next week. Awesome. Thank you so much. That's a great example. I'm going to save this to my desktop. And what I'll do, because these are really big files, their file sizes are big because they're PSD files. What I'll do is I'll save it to either Google Drive or a Dropbox, and I'll post an announcement to a link that you guys can access the files and download them from there. Even if they're zipped, they're going to be huge. They're like really big files. Here, I'll show you how big they are here. So the ones that I just put on my computer, like the one that you just sent me, is about 35 megabytes. Now you can zip this, but it's probably just going to take it down to, let's see. And I'll probably have more than one, so that's another thing. It takes it down to about 13.3, and that's actually not bad, but if I'm going to have 3 or 4 examples, it might be a little problem. So, but definitely zipping them does compress them, and that's the whole reason why we do that. Well, thank you for sharing that. And like I said, I'll try to compose at least 3 different possible mock-up examples for next week you guys can access. Yeah, some of them are really big files. Very good, very good. All right, well, welcome to week 3, live session 2. Like I said, it might be a shorter day today because we don't have too much to go over. Just kind of talking about if you guys have any week 3 questions from anything that we went over so far and discussion related or assignment related, we can definitely do that before getting into your other stuff here today. And then just recapping, if you have anything that you want to share, we'll do that at the end here. If not, we'll just I'll keep it open. I'll keep the lecture open if you want to come in and out and have any questions. I'll kind of be here. Assignment 3 we went over yesterday, and we'll talk about that just a little bit again. Planning the design. You guys are coming up with a strategy. You shouldn't be finished with anything. Just this is the start of your process. Can we skip the quiz? Yeah. Oh, okay. You got a lot of mock-ups. Good. Well, unfortunately, you can't skip the quiz. But what's nice about it is it's not timed, so that's good. Melissa, you're having a hard time with the discussion. Okay, we'll talk about that towards the end here. See if you have any questions about what questions you have about that. Obviously I can't go over the quiz questions, but we can see, kind of just do an overview here. All right, as I kind of noted before, you guys have a deadline. For those of you who have not turned in your assignment week 2 and week 1 work, I'm giving you guys an opportunity to hand that in before midnight tonight for possible full credit without any type of late penalty, and also I'm accepting week 1 work as well. And typically, I'm not really, allowed to accept any work that's over a week past the due date, but I am going to open that up to you guys. I have a handful of you who still have not, and have been very good at kind of keeping me in the loop with what's going on with your life. And so that's kind of why I decided to open that up for you guys. But just make sure you're making those revisions. Even if you did get feedback, you did turn in your work on time, awesome. For those of you who have, good job. And you receive feedback from your faculty advisor and myself, make sure you're making those changes going forward. All right, also don't forget the media sources. Like I said, in your media sources for week 3, that will be really, and week 2 as well, will be really helpful for your quiz. Okay, I shouldn't have, good, writer's block. Well, just kind of seeing what's out there, grabbing citations, getting supportive material to help you write your own, form your own perspective is very helpful. Okay, we'll talk about that for sure. Let's see what's going on there. But as I stated yesterday, we went over just kind of some things that you will be doing as we go forward. Don't forget to, it's always good to kind of jump ahead. Like Christina was saying, she always gets ahead of herself, but that's a good thing. Because what happens is sometimes when we're not looking forward, we could be really kind of giving ourselves more work because we're not thinking ahead. For example, if you're designing your kiosk screen to be a different size ratio than the kiosk that you want to use, you're going to have to go back and redesign your screen. So, obviously that's a time-consuming process. So if you're thinking ahead of time, and I kind of gave you that notice that, yeah, you guys should be kind of thinking ahead for this project, you'll be saving yourself some time and some frustration going forward. So it's a good thing to always kind of think ahead. Sometimes it's always good to and I always like to say design backwards. You know what that means? Designing backwards. From end to start, yes. So yeah, thinking about the project when it's done, maybe the launch part of it is really a good thing to think about at the end, because then you can kind of solve problems that you might not have thought about. So thinking about how that particular project's going to be launched. Is it going to be a web ad? Is it going to be on the web? Is it going to be, how is it going to be applied? Is it going to be printed and on the web? So thinking about the end part of it is sometimes always good. Preparing the printer, preparing the client or the budget or whatever is needed ahead of time. That's a good way to solve any type of issues ahead of time, and try to find cheaper options. Stay with the budget, stay with the timeline. So thinking, kind of doing the backwards steps is always a good thing. Now, obviously, you don't want to go too far into the process. You want to just kind of think about some possible issues that you might run into whenever you are launching your project. But sometimes that's always a good thing to do. Yeah. Exactly. Like, obviously you wouldn't, do all of the steps going backwards, but you would just think a little bit further ahead in regards to what needs to be done for the purpose of what is needed for the project. Because sometimes, you start designing and you're designing for just maybe print purposes, and then, the client comes to you, I want this for web too, and things, might need to be totally redone depending on what the project is. There's so many different variables to that to think about. All right, so as we talked about, sketches for your assignment 3 need to be done. I'm fine with doing sketches online too, as far as if you're in Illustrator and just doing some, kind of what I showed yesterday in the demo. If you want to play around with just the simple shapes, where you're kind of creating this almost like a wireframe type of a thumbnail sketch process, that's fine too. If you want to sketch it out with a pen and pencil and then scan it and take pictures and post it that way, submit it that way, that's fine as well. But definitely if you missed the lecture yesterday, listen to the recording. We went over some important information in regards to symbol and icon design and just how to set up the pages. We talked about, just how to start icon designs. And don't forget too, you can create these, but it doesn't mean you have to create them from scratch. Okay. Did you ever hear of wingdings? I'm sure you probably have. That's a font, right? So wingdings, let me try to find icons that are wingdings here. Wingdings are basically a font, but they are symbols too. So, yep, they act like a font. They are a font, I shouldn't say they act like a font, but they are symbols. And these icon symbols can be something that you might want to check out for your project, where you're downloading a certain wingding and maybe those icons become part of your project. What's neat about the wingdings, and I'll show you here in a second, let me open up Illustrator, is you can take it from being a font to a shape very easily too. So let me open up Illustrator, I'll show you real quick. All right, so let me just make this bigger so you can see first off. All right, so I don't know if I have any wingdings. Let me see. Wingdings you can download for free on your computer. They may be called wingdings, or they might just show up as a different name depending. Here's wingdings here. There's webdings. Let's open up that one. And if you want to see the whole family of this font, what you want to go is up to, oops, let's see here, type and glyphs. When you go up to type and glyphs, it'll open up this entire font of glyphs. So let's say you want to use, for one of your options here, you want to use maybe this I. Take your type tool, double click on it. There you go, you got your information with the circle icon. Now, this is a font still, and how I know that is because I'm taking my type tool and I can highlight it with my type tool. I can actually change the size of it through my character box. I can change the color of it through character, so it's a font. Now, if I wanted to edit this very easily, I can do so just by going up to type, create outlines. Just like you would a font. It takes it from a font to a shape. So it's no longer a font. Now I can take my direct selection tool, go in and kind of edit some things out. So let's say I wanted to change the color of this. I can go ahead and do that. I can change the shape of it. So that's something that you can definitely explore for this project. Okay, Christina's sharing a phone that she just did yesterday. Let me share this. All right, so that looks really good. Lots of detail. That looks great. And did you just design this from scratch, or is this something that you found as a symbol, what's going on here? Give us a little info. Here's the phone I designed yesterday. I designed it all but the phone icon on the bottom and top. Okay, cool. Yeah, I think this came out great. There's, you know, you don't necessarily have to put in the top details because I think just having the bigger details is probably strong enough, but this is great. You know, it depends on how you're going to use it. If you have a bigger in your layout, I think that works great. Good job. Yeah, so I mean, just a couple things to think about that you can, you know, if you're really struggling with trying to find a cohesive icons to work with, you can try the glyph. I'm sorry, not the glyph, the wingding option. And don't forget, there's also resources in your week 3 media and lynda.com videos for tips of successful icon design that you can definitely check out. Simple icon design, quick comprehension, easy to colorize, flexible use, and helps scaling. The complex icon design is distracting details, complicated colors, difficult to adapt, and inhibits scaling. So there's definitely 2 types of icon design. Make sure you're keeping it simple so that it comes off very easily. It's easy, it's more versatile, and it's just easy to use. Effective icons, so using shape versus line. Find a reference image, don't rely on memory, just like I showed you. Figure ground is something that you need to pay attention to, you know, how is the positive and the negative space being affected. Designing in one color is always a good thing to do, like for instance, black and white instead of a whole bunch of colors, keeping it simple. I showed you how to use the shape builder, and that kind of is a really cool way to, I'll show you here real quick again, to merge and kind of do some really cool effects. So this is, I think I was doing this before. Let me show you real quick. So let's say if I have just a regular circle, and let's do another circle, and I'll do this one in a color, and say I wanted to merge these 2 together, just do a little off kilter here. There we go. Say I wanted to merge, to kind of knock this part out. I can select both of these and go to our shape builder tool, which is right here, and it's Shift plus M, shortcut key. And when you kind of hover over it, you'll see kind of they'll select which one that you want to select first, and you can drag up and into depending on the effect that you want. So let's drag into the purple, and you can see that it kind of merges the 2 together. I'm going to pull this down just a little bit more here, and I'm going to select this again. Oops. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select both of these here. Let's see, select both of these with my shape builder tool. And what I did was I just clicked and dragged in there. Now I'm going to take my direct selection tool. Let me do this a different way here. I'm actually going to select the black one shape first, and I'm going to drag into the purple one. And it's going to show me the knockout that I just did. So if you want to have this shape kind of knocked out of this shape, let me see here. I'm going to give it a no fill. And we're going to do ascend to back here. Oh, why isn't this doing what I want it to do? Let me do this so I can actually see what's going on here. Oops. I'm trying to get this circle here to knock out of this circle. And there we go. Okay, so what you have to do, and I always kind of forget this because I don't use this tool very often, but I do teach this in the Illustrator class. They just actually started this tool not too long ago. So it's kind of a new tool. So if I wanted to knock this smaller circle out, I need to kind of click right inside those two lines. So it kind of unifies them. It's almost like the Pathfinder tool. So now I can take my direct selection tool and get rid of that part. So it's a kind of how you drag and select both of those lines that you want to kind of unify. Let me show it to you again here. Hold on. You know, somebody just typed something in and I don't have my chat thing up. So like, let's say I wanted to unify these two lines together. I just click and drag in there and then it kind of unifies those two lines. And vice versa here. Yeah, it's something that I'm so used to using the Pathfinder, which is right. I'll show you what the Pathfinder looks. That shape builder tool is kind of a really quick and easy way to do all of these type of shape modes and Pathfinders, dividing and trimming and all of that. So I'm definitely always learning too. So you can use that, kind of play around with that Pathfinder, just like it says Unite, Cutout, Demos. That is what I thought you were trying to use in the first place. I think it's a new. Yeah. They change up things so every once in a while when I'm so used to doing one thing one way and they're always changing things. But I mean, it's a good thing. You're always learning and pushing yourself. And a lot of the times, you know, I don't want to date myself, but geez, I've been working with these programs for probably over 20 years now. And I've seen the progression and the changes that each of them have had. And I've worked with other programs that are similar to these. Like instead of InDesign, I worked in Quark Express. I've worked in Freehand, which is similar to Illustrator. And it's just kind of really neat to see how it's evolved. And a lot of the times, a lot of the steps that I used to have to take are very quickly resolved by, you know, one simple tool or a step now. So, you know, there are definitely a good amount of progression since I've started. So pretty cool. All right, so do you have any questions in regards to the icon part of that design part? Now I showed you some ideas. Okay, hopefully some inspirational things that you can try if you're having issues with that. Also kind of thinking ahead for your week 4 work, just kind of looking up that mock-ups. I will, like I said, I'll provide you with the link. I'll probably do it in week 4, so I don't want a lot of you guys jumping too far ahead. Actually, no, I'll provide it this week because if you guys need to know the screen size, you'll need to see which mock-up that you want to use. Just don't use it yet until week 4. You don't have to keep your mouth shut. It's funny. All right, so your assessment 3, you will have to take, hopefully remember to take, is your quiz. And it's centered around the human-centered design topic. And it's 10 questions, each having a short reading. It also includes content and media reading on human-centered design. And the overview here is lecture. We used to do overviews, but they don't want us to do that anymore. So it's a little bit of an older slide. But what we'll do is we'll just take a look at it here in Canvas and read over some things. I just can't review. I used to review the questions like, oh, setting for this, and this. But they don't want us to do that anymore. They want you guys to go out and find that information, obviously. You're not a bad example. Definitely far from that. Okay, so what you're going to be doing, again, 10 questions. Some of them are based on week 3 required course media. And each question has a reading to go through before you answer the question. The quiz is not timed, but you'll only be able to take it once. So just kind of a little FYI there. And it's basically covering the, develop a cohesive user experience that support best practices of hierarchy and principles of design. 50 points. So what you may want to do is just go ahead and go into your media resources. Well, you want to go in there anyway, but go through this again. Week 3 has a lot of great information in here that will be very helpful for your quiz. And we went over this yesterday too, just kind of what's being covered in here. Did you guys check out the IDEO's website here? They're yeah, it's pretty neat. Pretty neat. If you ever check out IDEO on YouTube, they have some great YouTube and TED Talks too. You guys ever listen to TED Talks? It just goes about how the process of design stuff. Not good for printing. Yes, TED Talks. The owner of IDEO, the president of IDEO, has some great TED Talks. Just really some really cool information. But yeah, so check out the links there. Kind of it's all very relative to what what's going to be on the quiz and what you guys are going over in week 3, especially your discussion. And like I said, I can't really tell you guys what's on the quiz, but that's where you would look to study for it. So we're talking about human-centered design. What is it? Talking about that. You don't have to be an expert in every specific industry to create a good design and be an expert in the process on how to design. So problem solving, and that's pretty much what we do. We're problem solvers. Clients come to you with a problem. We're trying to visually, verbally solve that problem. And there's so many different aspects of design that could be implied. Think about even signage, how we find our ways through airports. That's called wayfinding. Did you ever hear of wayfinding? Is it fine to do research while in the quiz? Yes, you can do research. Yep. Yep. So wayfinding is finding your way through like a space. And there's a lot of psychology behind it, design. A lot of interior designers and architects study the wayfinding because obviously they're designing space, and designers get involved with, how to, do this effectively. Yep, simple design. I mean, think about when you walk into a store or an airport or a space that's a larger space. How do you walk through there easily? Did you ever go into an IKEA, for example? Yep. And it's almost like you have simple, as simple as just these arrows on the floor that are, kind of guiding you around. So, we are basically, as designers, we're problem solvers. So being an expert in process on how to design is important. And it starts with the people that you're designing for. There's different phases. Now, I think that we're talking about the 3 phases here. And this basically is pulled from this resource down below. So it's nicely compartmentalized into these 3 phases, but it doesn't necessarily mean that these are the only 3 phases. it's kind of like, it's definitely your design process. This is the beauty behind what we do as designers, all right? And a lot of the times people don't realize how much goes into the design process. And the designers that aren't going through the design process are going to miss out and create things that may not be as effective and meaningful. So for example, you know, when you're designing a logo, for instance, if you can definitely go from getting a project saying, okay, a client came to you, they want this logo done, and say you go straight to the computer and you don't do any type of process steps before, you don't do any type of research, you don't do any type of brainstorming, anything like that, you just go right to the computer. Of course, you can design the most aesthetically pleasing logo that looks beautiful, but it's probably not going to work. It's going to fail because there's no research behind it, there's no process behind it that's making it meaningful. So you're really cutting yourself short, and also the client. These process steps allow a designer to, you know, everybody thinks that we're creative people. We should be always thinking of creative ideas. But that's just not the case. You guys were just talking about writer's block, right? There you go. So designers have design block, right? We're human. We don't always think of the most creative ideas and concepts. We need help, right? Yeah. So I mean, that's what the process is for. Yep. And I've had students who are like, oh, I can't think of any ideas. That's what your process is for. If you go through the process steps, you will come up with many different concept ideas that maybe you never even thought about. More meaningful ones because you're putting that research behind there. You're checking out competitors. You're writing your adjective lists. You're getting collaborative feedback from people. You are doing mind maps. You are gathering the information from other competitors and forming your process through this process, even taking breaks, going out for a walk, taking a shower, taking a break. That's part of the process, coming back to it. So these steps are all super important in your process because this is what's going to have you come up with a lot of meaningful ideas that you might not have thought about. You know, what if you didn't go straight to the computer? What if you went and did like a watercolor on paper and did some type of mixed media that brought you to this solution? So there's so many different things that you can do to come up with some really cool ideas that you might not even think about. Crazy ideas. There's even a crazy idea step where, you know, what if this logo were a monster? What would it look like? Or a person? What would this, you know, just the craziest ideas can make you think of some really cool ideas for a concept. Yeah, exactly. Yep. Part of my process step, putting a pen and paper right next to my bed. Because sometimes when I'm immersed in a project and I'm thinking all day about it, I cannot think of anything new until I go to sleep, wake up, and I dream about something, and I have to hurry up and jot it down because I'm like, whoa, that's a really good idea. Okay. The PDF you sent me a long time ago that I have done in comp, what did you think? I'm not quite, what was this for, Christina? Okay, Azure, hopefully my mic's okay. You know what? Send me that again. I'm not sure if I'm not sure. Was that this mod? Oh, okay, okay. Was it just examples of your work? Oh, okay. You know what I think I did? I had so many sections the last time I taught. I think I had 3 sections. So I was super, super busy. I'm sorry. If I skipped over that, I apologize. But yeah, I did get that, and I did look through those, and that, you know, it's great to see what you guys are doing, especially like outside of class. So thank you for sending me those. I do remember that. I do remember that. All right. Sorry I didn't respond. Just one of those things, you know. But I appreciate that. I do have, from time to time, students will send me their stuff, and it's really neat. It's really cool when they send me stuff after they get, you know, into the working world too, and see what they're doing. Oh, yeah, it's just, it gets crazy sometimes. So here it's just talking about the three main phases. So you have your inspiration phase, you immerse yourself in their lives, empathy and understanding. You learn directly from the people you're designing for. So maybe you are part of that target audience, or maybe you haven't experienced a product that you're designing for. You act, you know, you buy that product or you get that product and you work with it. I did a project, for instance, for graduate class that I was taking, and it was the whole challenge. The problem was how to create awareness for homelessness in Tampa, where I was living. So I had immersed myself into that world, you know. I also did another project about, you know, I kind of created this, you know, coming up with an artifact that solves a problem. And mine was creating a system that allowed people to not use as many plastic bags. So I had to immerse myself into that whole process too. No, I could have. Yep, I could have. But I did talk to people and got myself into that whole, you know, the whole neighborhood, local environment to get that basic understanding of everything that was going on. Yep, yep. So sometimes getting, you know, obviously immersing yourself into the product. Then number two is the ideation phase. So prototyping, feedback. So generating tons of ideas, building a bunch of prototypes, testing your solutions, and then 3, implementation phase, bring your solution to life. So there's testing, yeah, definitely steps there. And IDEO's 5 steps and 7 mindsets on the designkit.org, it's nicely plotted out here. So you have number 1, empathize, understand your audience. 2, define, establish a point of view. 3, ideate, focus on possible solutions. 3, prototype, try out multiple solutions. And then 5, test, find the best solution for your audience. So there's just a list here of just steps and mindsets to have yourself. The mindsets are in the orange. The 7 mindsets to have when you're, you know, kind of being approached with a problem, a design problem. So creative confidence, you make it, you go through failures, you have empathy for your audience, embrace ambiguity, optimism, and irritate. So check out those, the source in the designkit.org mindsets, like IDEO's website there, and you can kind of see a little bit more in detail. So creative confidence is the belief that everyone is creative in a way of understanding the world. Trusting your intuition as a designer. You know, intuition has a lot to do with what we do. Either you have it or you don't sometimes. So intuition is a big part of what we do as designers. You know, just having that gut feeling of what is needed. Chasing solutions that you haven't totally figured out yet. You know, even if they're crazy solutions to big problems, to get it wrong and to keep on rolling. You know, obviously, that's part of the process. Innovate along the way, can take time to build. So changes can be made. You kind of push through it. Start with small successes and then build to bigger ones. You might find a totally different path to what you were originally on if you go through this process. Then you make it. You test them. Actually making something reveals opportunities and complexities that we've never have guessed were there. You know, you might be like, oh my gosh, this is really hard to use. I didn't realize this was going to be like this. Or, oh my gosh, this is backwards of how I would actually look at this. You know, you might find Yep, exactly. Exactly, Christina. So share the prototype. You see how other people use it or look at it, evaluate and learn how to make it better. You can prototype anything at any stage of the process. You could prototype a brochure that you're making. You can, prototype anything. Getting ideas out of our heads and into the hands of the people we're looking to serve is also most important. Going through failure is an incredibly powerful tool for learning. I know a lot of you guys have fear of failure. Fear of failure. Yep. Don't fear failures. I always like to say, fail as much as you can in school because that's how you'll learn. Because when you go out in the working world, when you fail, it's a little bit different than failing in school. Obviously you can try to make a you want to learn from your failures too. You don't want to keep failing on the same, doing the same thing. It is scary, but learning something new is scary. And when you fail, sometimes that's the only way, one of the only ways that you can learn the most too. It starts from a place of not knowing what the solution to a given design challenge might be. By listening, thinking, building. Yep, exactly. And I'm not saying it's not scary or anything. I understand that, especially when you're a student. And refining our way to an answer, do we get something that will work? Yep, exactly. Yep. I have not failed. I just found 10,000 ways that won't work, Thomas and Edison said. It's kind of funny. Failure is an inherent part of human-centered design. When human-centered designers get it right, it's because they got it wrong first. So it's often a thing that you do go through as a human-centered designer. Having empathy, the capacity to step into other people's shoes and understand their lives. It's a great thing to have as a human-centered designer. Solve problems from their perspectives. Bring them along with you in the design process. See the world and all the opportunities to improve it through a new and powerful lens. Opens you up to new creative possibilities. This is where, even inventions come about. Allows you to leave behind preconceived ideas and outmoded ways of thinking, outmoded ways. Embrace ambiguity, saying that word. And in the definition of ambiguity, it's inexactness, being able to open to more than one interpretation. Start from the place of not knowing the answer to the problem. Pursue lots of different ideas, arrive at unexpected solutions. The process will guide us towards an innovative answer. Don't cling to ideas any longer than you have to. There will always be more ideas. Discard bad ones, hold on to pieces of the so-so ones. The ambiguity of not knowing the answer sets you up to innovate, and it frees us to pursue an answer that we can't initially imagine. It's almost like your design process where you're kind of doing the mind map. You're thinking of different things and it leads off into another idea. That's kind of the idea behind that. And then optimism. We have to believe that progress is even an option. Can't just give up. Driving us towards solutions, making us more creative. Push on when we hit dead ends. We have to be problem solvers too. Infuse the entire process with energy. Constraints are inevitable, but often push yourself toward unexpected solutions. But often push you towards unexpected solutions. Optimism is the belief that every problem is solvable. Iterate. I think this was a misspelling in the beginning when it said irritate. It's iterate. I was going to say that's kind of weird. Definition: perform repeatedly. So that's what that means. I know you guys are all laughing at me, right? Spell check. Feedback from the people we are designing for. Critical part of a solution evolves. Laughing with me. Thank you. I need people to laugh with. Continually refining and improving our work. Try a variety of approaches. Keeps us nimble and responsive. Trains our focus on getting the ideas and every detail just right. allows us the opportunity to explore, to get it wrong, to follow our hunches. It allows us to keep learning. Iterate, iterate, iterate. So real problem solving. So the best human-centered innovations are originated from specific needs, not consumer trends. Is often spurred by ideas that adapt something that already exists to a contemporary need, and are discovered while the designer is putting themselves in the user's position. And there's a look. David Kelly has a Creative Confidence TED Talk 2-minute clip here that is connected to this resource on IDEO's 6-step human-centered design process. And let me see if I can actually find that here. Maybe we can take a look since it's not a really long video. 1 second. You guys said you like the TED Talks. So let me see if I can bring this up here. I have a link to it, how to make things people in. Let me do a Google search here. Give me 1 second. Here we go. Here we go. And the Drake and the Devil's Cocktail. Didn't see that one. Is that in this one? In this particular resource here? Oh, okay. Oh, you know what? I'm going to just give you guys this link here because there's like a ton of different, here, I'm going to give you this link, different TED Talks that you guys can check out on there that are the best TED Talks for UX design, which is really cool. You guys can definitely check that out. I'll post that in announcements too, so everybody can get that because I'm not sure if the chat can go with the recording here. David Kelly, Creative Confidence. Let me try to Google that one. And it looks like it's more than a 2-minute clip here. So I'm just going to give you guys the link. It's like 11 minutes, I think. No, it doesn't. Yeah, I'll give these links to you guys in announcements so that people who are listening to this can access that. Okay, there's the other link for that particular Creative Confidence TED Talk. It's not 2 minutes, it's actually like 11. So, oh, I think this is telling me between 5:42 and 7:56, sorry. Yeah, so I can kind of sift through that. 5:42. Let me see if I can find that. 5:42. We're right here looking.
Kind of like a series of small successes, and they turn kind of fear into familiarity, and they surprise themselves. That transformation is amazing. We see at the D School now all the time, people from all different kinds of disciplines, they think of themselves as only analytical, and they come in and they go through the process, our process, they build confidence, and now they think of themselves differently. And they're totally emotionally excited about the fact that they walk around thinking of themselves as a creative person. right? So I thought one of the things I'd do today is take you through, like, and show you what this journey looks like. To me, that journey looks like Doug Dietz. Doug Dietz is a technical person. He designs medical imaging equipment, large medical imaging equipment. He's worked for GE and he's had a fantastic career, but at one point he had a moment of crisis. He was in the hospital looking at one of his MRI machines in use when he saw a young family and his little girl. And that little girl was crying and was terrified. And Doug was really disappointed to learn that nearly 80% of the pediatric patients in his hospital had to be sedated in order to deal with this MRI machine, right? And this was really disappointing to Doug because before this time, he was proud of what he did. You know, he was saving lives with this machine, but it really hurt him to see the fear that this machine caused in kids. About that time, he was at the D School at Stanford taking classes. He was learning about our process, about design thinking, about empathy, about iterative prototyping. And he would take this new knowledge and do something quite extraordinary. He would redesign the entire experience of being scanned. And this is what he came up with. He turned it into an adventure for the kids. He painted the walls and he painted the machine and he got the operators retrained by people who know kids, like, you know, children's museum people. And now, so when the kid comes, it's an experience. And they talk to him about the noise and the movement of the ship. And when they come, they say, okay, you're going to go into the pirate ship. Be very still. Pirates find you. Right? And the results were super dramatic. Right? So from something like 80% of the kids needing to be sedated to something like 10% of the kids needing to be sedated. And the hospital and GE were happy too, because you didn't have to call the anesthesiologist all the time, they could put more kids to the machine in a day. So the quantitative results were great. But Doug's results that he cared about were much more qualitative. He was with one of the mothers waiting for her child to come out of the scan. And when the little girl came out of her scan, she ran up to her mother and said, "Mommy, can we come back tomorrow?" Right? And so I've heard Doug tell the story many times of his personal transformation and the breakthrough design that happened from it. But I've never really seen him tell the story of the little girl without a tear in his eye. Doug's story takes place in a hospital. I know a thing or two about hospitals. A few years ago, I felt a lump on the side of my neck. And it was my turn in the MRI machine. It was cancer. It was the bad kind. I was told I had like a 40% chance of survival. So while you're sitting around with the other patients in your pajamas and everybody's pale and thin, you know, and you're waiting for your turn to get the gamma rays, you think of a lot of things. Most of you think about, am I going to survive? And I thought a lot about, what was my daughter's life going to be like without me? But think about other things. I thought a lot about, what was I put on earth to do? You know, what was my calling? What should I do, right? And I was lucky because I had lots of options. We'd been working in health and wellness and K through 12 and the developing world. And so there were lots of projects that I could work on. But I decided, and I committed to at this point, that the thing I most wanted to do was to help as many people as possible regain the creative confidence they lost along their way. If I was going to survive, that's what I wanted to do. I survived, just so you know.
All right. It's very, very cool. So if you want to listen to that whole thing, it looks like, Christina, you did listen to that whole thing, which is good. Yeah, you can definitely check out that link. It's so inspiring. Those TED Talks, it's even the ones that aren't design related are really cool to check out. But yeah, it talks about creative confidence. I mean, look at how that person designed that to totally change the experience. So, you know, it can be very powerful. But he wouldn't have known unless he would have seen kind of the effects that it had on some of the kids going through it. So human-centered ideas can come from random exposure or from repeated experience, but they're always based on problem solving. So how can you solve these different, you know, for instance, roadways, you know, you see the raccoon on the left-hand side here. How can we make it more safe so we can see things on the road? You know, even just recycling. There's the shipping containers. They can be changed into homes for people in need, like through disasters, you know, recycled in that regards. So there's different solutions based on what the problems are. I'm not sure what the cornflakes are there for. Sorry, guys. Prototypes and brainstorming. The quality of the prototype is not a big concern. So it's just kind of like, you know, it's not the finished product. It's just, you know, you're kind of testing it out. Testing and revising often is important. China has musical roads, really? Interesting. Feedback on your prototypes is best when having personal conversations on site, using interactive prototypes and not giving a lot of instructions or directions to the user. There's different approaches to generate ideas. There's the traditional and the human-centered. So the traditional is doing online research of statistics, tests, and surveys, something you can traditionally do, regarding ideas for individual opportunities. Once the design process is final, making one final quality prototype for consumer testing. Human-centered is talking to the people in the environment you are designing for, would be the approach to generate ideas. Sharing ideas and working as a team, more collaborative. Having rough prototypes tested during the design process. Oh, and Melissa's asking about the musical roads. I would be interested in knowing the purpose behind that as well. I guess to maybe wake you up or something. I don't know if you're kind of going off track, kind of like those little rumble strips. No, wakes you up. All right. So kind of cool, some things to kind of think about in regards to human-centered design. I'm going to go ahead and if you guys don't have any questions in regards to what we just went over, I'm going to go and look into the discussion 3 and see what questions that you have in regards to that, Melissa, here. Oh, okay, that's cool, Christina. I never heard of that. That is actually a really cool idea. All right, so tell me, Melissa, what is you said the first question is what you're stuck on here? So how is information design utilized in the different design fields mentioned? That's what you're questioning about. Okay, so can everybody kind of chime in what would that entail? Can anybody think of a design field? Yeah, it's listed in the reading. Yep. 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 You got it. So it's listed in the reading. So you got the web design, print design. So what you would do, you could talk about, because these are just topic questions that you can focus on. How is information design utilized in the different design fields mentioned? So you can do a kind of what Christina just mentioned. They all have visual design in their work and main message or end use involved. And or you can actually specify which, say web design, what they would utilize information design. How would they do that specifically? And maybe in that regards, it would be more for, if you're kind of showing an infographic for a specific product online, that's how it could relate to print and web. Maybe you guys can start out with a question first that you have about it, and then try to answer it. You know what I mean? Sometimes starting it out with a question is the best way to go. Then you can answer the question or show the research about the question and then sum it up in your conclusion. That's typically a great way to even write a paper, is pose a question first. Okay. And you don't have to answer all of these questions. These are just to kind of help you focus on the topic. And these are just suggested things to talk about and discuss within your post. Yeah, well, we're talking about information design for that. So that would be talking about information design, not necessarily a final file or final like conversion. So here's the third one here. It says, how can the human-centered approach to design be applied in your specific field? So we're not talking about, the production of the file. We're talking about the actual human-centered design approach and information design. But you are right about that, the end part of it. It's just what we're, being on topic here with human-centered information design and all of that. So if you're a print designer, how can the human-centered approach to design be applied in your specific field? So maybe in regards to maybe a package design, you're implementing the human-centered approach to that package design. You're prototyping that package design, and you're doing all those steps with the actual product to come up with a more effective package for that product. So that would be an example for that. And those steps that we talked about, yeah, like the process steps for prototyping and for human-centered design could be applied to that. It's there are process steps for every type of creative position. So like a web designer, print designer, even an architect, interior designer, we all have our process steps. They might not always be the same, but there's always that story the process that we go through to get to the end concept, or that we should be. So, just like designers do, architects go through the same process. They just utilize different software at the end. But they go through the whole brainstorming, research, collaborative thinking, sketching, brainstorming, roughs, all that. Yeah. It's just not everybody's steps are the same. So even if I'm a designer and I do certain steps, the designer next to me might be doing different steps. Maybe this similar in nature, but they do it a little differently. So not every step is always the same. They might brainstorm differently than me, for instance. Their process might not be, theirs might be where they're going from one, two, three step and then back to one again. It depends on the project too. So it's not a linear process. You don't go from step 1 to step 7 and call it a day. Sometimes you go back to step 2 and you kind of bounce back and forth depending on the project and where you're at. Sometimes you have to rethink your idea because maybe it's not working. So you have to go back to step 1. Yep. So everybody's process is different, but we all kind of do if you look up design methodology, that's a really good keyword to look up, and that just goes through all of designers' process steps. And they'll have staple steps, so like there'll be essential steps that you go through, but not everybody's steps are always the same. You can add more, subtract more, whatever you like to do to brainstorm might be different than what somebody else does too. But it's definitely something that you guys all should be doing. And what's neat about the design process steps, you guys will start it and it'll take long to get through these steps for you initially, if you're not used to it especially. But as you get going as a designer and you're working in the real world and you're using these steps all the time, sometimes you go through them so quickly that it becomes more effective. So you become more efficient and more, with your steps, so it doesn't take as long. But you're still going through those steps. It's just not taking you as long because, you're just kind of going through the rhythm of things. All right. That's pretty much all I have for you guys. I have no next slide here, so I'm going to kind of leave it up to you guys. If you want to share anything, have any questions, I'm going to wrap this up, and if you don't, then we'll just kind of call it a lecture. So I'm going to leave that up to you guys. Okay, you schedule the computer more than paper. Yeah, it's all what you're comfortable with too, Everybody has their own way of doing things. As long as you're going through the steps, that's what's important. All right, guys. Well, good luck on your quiz. Make sure you're getting that discussion initial post in before midnight tonight. Also, if you still owe week 1 and week 2 work, get that in before midnight tonight for possible full credit. I'm giving you that opportunity. When we're done with the lecture today, I'll post those links to the TED Talks, and you should be also seeing another post with optional mock-ups for next week. Sound good? And then next week, we'll go over how we're going to create your screens from your sketches to your design roughs to your mock-ups. All right, guys, enjoy the rest of your day. Try to stay cool. Go to the pool. And let me know if you have any questions going forward. I will be hanging out. All right, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you on the discussion boards. All right, have a good one.